I found an article in an old news magazine from October 1939, and it's discussing whether Neville Chamberlain can remain as Prime Minister or whether he might need to be replaced. And it's explaining why he might need to be replaced, and it's discussing who the main candidates might be. Now, this is the 5th of October 1939, so it's after the Russian invasion of Poland, and it's a few days before Hitler made a speech proposing peace. And that speech is something that I've already covered in one of my earlier videos. Now, there's clearly a lot of anticipation about what Hitler is going to do next and whether he's going to make a peace proposal. And if he does, then how should the West react to it? Also, the government's under clear pressure to be clear about its objectives with the war. I mean, an interesting point that comes out here is that after the German invasion of Poland, we declared war on Germany, but when Russia invaded Poland, we didn't declare war on Russia. So the article says, at the same time, agitation began in all parliamentary parties for a clear definition of the government's war aims. The Socialist Party had prepared its views and wanted the government to adopt them. War was declared on Germany by Britain because the Nazis refused to withdraw their troops from Polish territory and settle their differences by negotiation. Soviet Russia's invasion, to protect its own frontiers as well as to win as much as possible without risk, has since complicated that declaration. Hitler would have welcomed a British declaration of war against Soviet Russia. It would have solved many problems for him, but Britain and France, after consultation, decided against. Since then, the Prime Minister has declared Britain's war aims in more general terms as to redeem Europe from the perpetual and recurring fear of German aggression and to enable the peoples of Europe to preserve their liberties and their independence. This was not regarded as sufficient this week, when there arose the possibility that Hitler would try to confuse the world with specious peace terms. Behind the desire for a clear statement of the government's war aims, however, was another objective. The movement to form a completely national government consisting of representatives from all parties was clearly increasing. It was argued that all parties could be united at once if the war aims of government and the terms on which peace would be possible were clearly declared. Many Conservatives would like to see socialists in government for reasons of unity and efficiency. Their presence would, it is believed, assure the complete cooperation of the trade unions in a mighty war effort. Under the party constitution, socialists cannot join any government or even form one without first consulting the rank and file, so any declaration of war aims designed to bring them into government would therefore have to receive the approval of a national conference. There is still much latent opposition to Neville Chamberlain in the Socialist Party. It goes back to the days before he was Prime Minister and has nothing to do with his war policy. The result is that there are probably only 3 men in the present government with any hope of uniting the Socialists and the Liberals in a truly national government. They are Viscount Halifax, Winston Churchill and Anthony Eden. Although Premier Chamberlain is carrying the responsibilities of the war policy without signs of any undue strain, it is recognised by his closest friends that if hostilities continue into next year, there may have to be a change in the premiership. But there is no conviction in these assertions. Having declared war after failing in his efforts to win peace, Neville Chamberlain likens himself to Pitt. He is determined to see it through at all costs. Only if the country demands the inclusion of socialists and liberals in the government and they refuse to serve under him will Neville Chamberlain have to consider his personal position. In present circumstances, it is certain that if the Premier had to nominate a successor, he would choose Viscount Halifax. The Foreign Secretary has been sounded many times about taking over the Premiership after Neville Chamberlain, but he has refused to consider it. On the other hand, if Mr. Chamberlain himself suggested it, Lord Halifax might change his mind. Winston Churchill would then almost certainly become leader of the House of Commons to overcome the difficulties of having a Prime Minister who's in the House of Lords. Although there are people in all parties who would support the Foreign Secretary as Prime Minister, there are just as many who would like to see First Lord Churchill in the post. The review of the Navy's part in the war, which he gave in the House of Commons last week, sent his stock up many points. MPs have been depressed by the previous colourless statements of war progress. and they warmed to writer Churchill's graphic account. In the same way, his broadcast on Sunday night was calculated by his friends to have added to his popularity, but Winston is not popular with all sections of opinion in the House of Commons. Many regard him with mixed feelings of admiration and doubt. Such politicians might choose Viscount Halifax in preference. In that case, Anthony Eden's chances cannot be put higher than third place. So what this article is suggesting then is that the reason that Neville Chamberlain's position is becoming questionable is not because he's not a capable leader, it's because pressure is growing to form a national government bringing together all the political parties. And presumably Neville Chamberlain is too right-wing for that and is not going to be acceptable to the Labour Party. The other thing that I find really interesting is it's suggesting that the thing that's putting Winston Churchill ahead of all the other candidates at this point in time is his ability as an orator. If you're enjoying this content, please have a look at my channel, Not History But News. I'm going through a big box full of old news magazines from the 1930s and the 1940s that I found in an attic. And there's loads of stuff like this. So please have a look, and if you like it, please like and subscribe. Thank you very much.